Welcome back to Bravo Breaking News. I am your host, Kim, aka Bravo Breaking News on Instagram. And last night's Vanderpump Rules Part 1 reunion definitely delivered, to say the least. Now, I know we usually have our co-host Lisa joining us for these recaps. Unfortunately, she is not feeling well. So today, it's going to be a solo one. So sit back because I have a lot of thoughts to share with you guys. But before I dive in, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any Bravo breaking news. So I was actually pleasantly surprised because if history is any indication, usually part 1 of the reunion doesn't give us a whole lot. We usually have to wait for part 2 or part 3, depending on how many parts there are, to really get to the juice of it. But we had Lala and Katie going after each other at the end of this part, and it left me shook. I am definitely going to dive into all my thoughts about that, but let's start from the beginning. So, of course, we got intros from all the cast. Of course, we have Andy asking the important questions. He straight up asks Katie and Ariana, when is Something About Her opening? And they share that by the time this airs, that Something About Her will actually be open. No, wrong. It is not open. They say it will be opening May 22nd. It is not currently open during part 1 of the reunion. So I don't really know what's going on here, guys. If you have any insight into when it's actually opening, is it really going to be opening May 22nd? Please let me know because all I want is a damn sandwich. Of course, he also asks about the house situation, and we still don't get any information because Tom and Ariana are still battling each other in litigation surrounding that house. We know that Ariana has purchased a house. At this point in time, she said she wasn't staying there. We also learned that Schwartz is, thank God, not going to be rooming with Sandoval. I'm surprised it took him this long to realize that that was a terrible idea. They talk about how they're maybe going to buy an investment property together, which is an even worse idea. So I don't know, it kind of seems like Schwartz is finally coming to his senses. Now, here's where the really juicy stuff starts, and that's when Andy brings up the elephant in the room, which is Rachel Leviss. He kind of asks, what people thought about the last reunion and what they would have thought if she would have returned. Ariana, to no surprise, says she has zero regrets about the last reunion, how she talked to Rachel, what she said, and all of that. Now, I know a lot of the fans were pretty angry at her with how aggressive she was towards Rachel. And you guys know I'm an Ariana stan, so I support her not having any regrets with how she handled that situation and what she said to her. But the only person that still seems to want to have a relationship with Rachel is Lala, because she's saying that if Rachel were to return, she would have been able to have a productive conversation with Rachel. Now, I know, of course, in that first episode of the season, we see Lala sending a voice note to Rachel, which I'm pretty sure went unresponded to. And I know she can relate to Rachel because they were both the other women in these situations. But Lala even saying that she wants to sit down and talk to Rachel after what Rachel has spewed, the lies, the hurt, everything that she has talked about on all of her podcast episodes, the podcast with Bethany, I am surprised that Lala actually still feels this way. We also heard from Tom on this matter, and guys, he is not happy with Rachel. He calls her a fucking coward for not only not returning to the show, but saying that she's moving on, but still talking about it. He's pissed off that she's basically spinning this narrative that, he groomed her, that she was a victim and all of that, and he is denying it wholeheartedly. But it seems like he doesn't really know what grooming means, and Lala, I have to give her props here because she does put him in her place, because he thinks that grooming has to do with underage people. But Lala simply says it's just like manipulating someone younger than you. Somebody that's in a more position of power kind of takes hold over somebody that's younger and more impressionable. And to this, I completely agree because I do think it happened to Lala with Randall. And I do kind of think it happened between Rachel and Tom. But he says it was completely mutual. They both did it. They were both in it. And she is not a victim in this because she played a part just as much as he did. The line that really sent me, though, is when Tom said, I was very impressionable when she took her clothes off and jumped in my pool. Like, Tom, this is one of those examples where you keep your mouth shut. Yes, I'm sure Rachel did this, but saying this does in no way make you look any better. Of course, Andy is going to bring up the revenge porn lawsuit. And of course, they can't say much about it. Scheana kind of chimes in. I feel like Ariana kind of is using Scheana to kind of be her voice in this situation. And even Tom speaks up for Ariana, which I have to give him props for this moment because even he thinks it's absolutely ridiculous for Rachel to come after Ariana. It's one thing for Rachel to come after him, but to come after Ariana is taking it way too far. I mean, Ariana is getting emotional. She's right in saying that she literally did nothing to Rachel. Rachel is the one that had a 7-month affair with her boyfriend of 10 years and was basically best friends with her too. So the fact that Ariana is now being punished for this is absolutely ludicrous and ridiculous. I definitely think that she is going to be found innocent in all of this lawsuit. Tom, however, I think it might be a different story, but we're definitely going to see how that pans out because they are in the middle of it all. You know, Andy also asked James about how he feels about Rachel, and he's like, I'm over it. I'm exhausted. And then everybody wants to remind him that he's actually the one that brought Rachel into the group. And sometimes I need that reminder too. I mean, it seems like him and Raquel were together so long ago. It seems like that's not even like a part of this history anymore. But he is responsible for all of this in a way. And he apologizes to everybody. I think he kind of owes everybody that because if it weren't for him, none of this probably would have ever happened. But I don't blame James. He's still the number one guy in the group for me. Okay, so let's move on to Sandoval's suicidal thoughts. So of course, you know, they talked to him and I feel for him if he did actually feel this way. But he decides to spin it right back around on Ariana, saying that she actually used it as a manipulation tactic towards him. So now, who's going to believe that he didn't do the exact same thing? I mean, I don't think that Ariana saying that was a manipulation tactic. And for him to put it out there when Ariana had not told a soul, he put it out there when he was sitting on that couch with Scheana, was definitely an invasion of privacy and something that should have never been said. Sandoval was able to bring it up what he felt was right to Lisa on camera and talk about it in that way versus Tom just weaponizing it against Ariana when she didn't even know he was going to bring it up. So I don't know what to believe here. I mean, if he thinks that Ariana was using it to manipulate him, I can only imagine what he's doing to manipulate us, the viewers, because as we learned in that finale episode, actually those last couple minutes, is that how the viewers perceive him is probably what's most important to him. So if spinning this narrative were to get us back on his side, I think he's capable of doing that. We also finally get the question that we've been waiting for months, and that is when Andy asks Sandoval about the George Floyd of it all. You know, he did this interview and he compared himself to George Floyd and O.J. Simpson. And he does explain that he was not comparing himself, but the news in general. You know, those were newsworthy moments in the media that were happening. And somehow him cheating on Ariana became the same level as these very serious incidents. And Lala is kind of backing him up. She's explaining it. She's saying what he actually meant. And it kind of seems like she's standing behind him. And I have a feeling this is just the beginning of Lala sticking up for Sandoval during this reunion. I don't think we've seen the end of it. Katie then explains that there's something called intent versus impact. And she is exactly right here. Even if his intentions were not that, the impact that this made was huge, and he needs to just take accountability, stand up, and not making excuses, because no matter really what his intentions were, it was still inappropriate for him, a disgraced reality TV star, to bring up those names in an interview to begin with. I mean, those names and Tom Sandoval should not be uttered in the same sentence in any situation. So it's the impact that was made that really matters here. Okay, now for a little bit of an emotional moment, because we did speak to Brock, who, by the way, I guess he's sitting on stage the whole time. He is not a full-time cast member, is not in the opening credits, yet unlike Allie, who's only going to show up for a segment, he is going to be sitting on stage with Scheana the whole time. I don't know why, it just kind of bothers me, but it's possible we'll be seeing Brock back in a full-time position next season. Anyway, you know, of course they talk about his kids. You know, Scheana and him went to Australia and they didn't see his ex-wife or his children. And he explains, though, that at this point, it's really up to the kids whether they want to see him or not. And you can tell he's upset by this. I'm sure he tried. I'm sure it's not for lack of trying that he didn't see them. But if they're old enough to make their own decisions and decide that they don't want to see him, I guess there's really nothing he can do about it at this point, but he says he's continuing to pay child support. And what really got the tears flowing was when he talks about, being a dad to Summer Moon and how that is kind of like a second chance for him. I mean, everybody on stage was crying about this because I think they can all see with their own eyes that Brock is an amazing father. I mean, even Katie apologizes for bringing up all of this stuff in the past and questioning everything that happened with his former family. So I think that this is proof that Brock does deserve forgiveness and a second chance. Okay, moving on. So of course, Andy lists off everything that Ariana has done in the past year. I mean, Broadway, Dancing with the Stars, New York Times bestselling author, Something About Her is opening. I mean, there's just endless things. And my favorite part about this was seeing Sandoval's face. He gives this smirk, like he's happy for her. But we all know deep down inside, he is shaking. He's also shaking when LVP reveals that she almost changed the name of Tom Tom. I mean, I kind of was wondering this the whole time. After the whole scandal, she basically has a business built around these two terrible men. And the fact that moving the sign from Pump to Tom Tom was almost a way to change its name and maybe make it the new Pump. I don't know. I think maybe she might have done that or may still do it in the future, depending on how things go with the Toms. They talk about Something About Her again, and Katie basically explains that they haven't opened because they've encountered all of this red tape. We've heard tirelessly about all of the permits in West Hollywood, etc., etc. Apparently, they're finally going to open, but Lisa Vanderpump does not seem very supportive of this because she is calling out the fact that they're not opening because there have been disagreements between Katie and Ariana because Ariana's away all the time, and I guess Katie's unhappy about that. Katie vehemently denies this, but LVP says there's something going on. And that kind of causes Lala to chime in because this is kind of when things go south between Lala and Katie. We heard way back when that they didn't end the last season on a good note. So going into this season, there was definitely some tension between them. And we finally kind of get the root to that because Lala is calling out Katie. First, she's saying that Katie sent her this DM that has to do with her custody battle. The DM read, "Get rid of your lawyers because what you need is a fucking therapist. You're a clown." Now, I can't say I disagree. I tend to lean more towards Team Katie than Team Lala on pretty much everything. And I don't think this really had anything to do with her custody battle. I think it had something to do with the way Lala was reacting to something Katie was saying. They were just not seeing eye to eye. I mean, Lala was basically pushing Ariana to get over it and move on. And Katie was backing up her friend, saying that it wasn't the time. There hadn't been enough time that had passed for Ariana to feel this way. And this caused Lala to feel abandoned by Katie, and Katie immediately interjects and is like, "Why? Because I didn't jump on the Tom train?" And she is 100% right in saying that. Lala's basically saying that Katie was acting differently on camera versus off, and she starts to spew even more shit. She's calling Katie out and basically saying that Katie vented to her about Ariana abandoning the sandwich shop, not paying her rent, and all of this stuff about Ariana to simply try to turn them on each other. That is definitely what's happening here. And Katie responds by saying these were issues with her own insecurities, which she took to Instagram. I am going to do a video about that, explaining basically, she has imposter syndrome. She didn't really know how to handle this on her own, and she was confiding in Lala, and for Lala to bring up a private conversation that they had on camera and basically air out all of Katie's dirty laundry is not sitting right with me whatsoever. Katie admits, she's like, "I went to one of my friends to vent. I did not want to bother Ariana with all of this stuff, seeing as she was going through all of this stuff, and we were business partners." She was like, "I was confiding in a friend. I was venting about it, and obviously I shouldn't have, because loyalty obviously doesn't mean anything to Lala." Lala said Katie wasn't saying these things out loud because of something about her, because she wanted something about her to succeed. And that's when Lala goes off. She's basically like, if you're going to fuck with my business, I'm going to fuck with yours. Something about her is nothing about her right now. How dare you threaten my livelihood that I support my kids with? And okay, is Lala talking about her business being the reality star on the show? It's giving Lisa Rinna. The fact that she will go to any length, she will be disloyal to people. She will turn on people in order to make good reality TV. She will stop at nothing in order to create drama for the show. She will disband her friend group. She will turn on people who thought they could count on her. And she will air people's dirty laundry that was discussed off camera, on camera, in order to create a storyline and keep the drama going. And to me, that does not make a good reality star whatsoever. We lose the authenticity. We lose the trust. We lose everything that basically Lala was saying at the end of that finale episode. She said, we want to see truth. We want to see honesty. If you're going to put the sake of a reality show in front of your loyalty and your trust to your friends, then you do not belong on reality. That is taking this way further than it ever should go on a reality show. I know we are watching these people. We want drama. We want storylines. If not, we're basically bored. But at the end of the day, you are still a real person. So if you are letting all of that go, everything about you that makes you an actually decent human being, and risking it all for the sake of a reality TV show, then I don't think you belong on TV. It's giving Lisa Rinna in her final seasons. It's giving too forced. It's giving too produced. Therefore, I'm not buying what Lala is selling. And I am firmly on Team Katie. I cannot wait to see where this goes next week. I hope Katie annihilates Lala, just like we heard Ariana does. I have a feeling that we're going to be hearing a lot more from Lala because she seems to be mentioning it all this reunion. So let me know what you guys think. Are you Team Katie? Are you Team Lala? What do you think about everything that was said in the final moments of the reunion? Let me know in the comments and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more Bravo breaking news.